I'm Keely Orr, joined by the All-American Sean Cody, and we welcome in for the first time defensive coordinator Gary Patterson.
Hello.
USC's coach interviews presented by iTrust Capital, the official cryptocurrency platform of the USC Trojans. Coach, week 1 of spring camp is in the books. I believe you just came out of the first practice of week 2. How's it like being on the field with the guys finally?
Well, yeah, it was a little while. I did a Amazon kickoff deal, and the reason I did it was because they promised me what they did is they signed me up for Catapult Thunder, so I got all the college football I could watch last year. She vetted, she did all the Netflix, and I watched football. So now it's fun getting back. You know, it's always about the kids and the coaches anyway, so it's been really a lot of fun. I really like the group.
Coach, you've been consulting these last couple of years with some teams, and now you're getting back in it as a defensive coordinator. What were those couple of years where kind of sitting back and involved with some teams, but what were those years like? You know, you were a head coach for so long. I'm sure it's hard not to jump back in it and kind of sit back and watch what's going on.
Well, what you find out is there's two types of consultants. There's ones that just write it. They look at everything and analyze it. They write a report, and then they turn it in if you ask questions, and then there's fixers, and I was kind of sent to both places to kind of be a fixer. Mm-hmm. Here was a certain thing they wanted to do, and I'll be honest with you, I'd rather be the guy that wrote the report, because the fixer is the guy that then everybody's not happy with because you're telling them things that they don't want to hear. But, it was good. I think it kind of helped Texas kind of get going back in directions. I knew a lot of the defensive guys, probably more than the coaches did, because I'd recruited them out of high school. The guys, they were juniors and seniors. Sweat and some of those guys who went on to be in the NFL. And so for me, it was a lot of fun. And really, probably I learned more than I gave, because I said, get me in the back of the room. Tell me about, I went from 30 people working in an office to 130 people working in an office. And so how does NIL work at this level? How does the portal work at this level? How does 4 or 5 different recruiting groups in the back of the room instead of having one recruiting group? Yeah. I just had one strength coach just for football, and, everybody has 5 now. So, just kind of, I wanted to know what it was going to be like. And then I gave what we needed, what they asked, and then kind of went about my business, and did about the same at Baylor too. But it was a lot of fun. Like I said, people inside of a football office are usually great people. Coaches are usually great people. I really like being around the players, and this group here is no different. It's really been a lot of fun.
You said that you're rested now, which when you've been coaching since 21, coaches don't get a lot of rest. What did that time off provide you as far as just your perspective?
Well, everybody said, I was asked a question at the first press conference. Well, how did you become better as a head coach? Well, after 25 years, it's one of those things. Any business, any person that works, if they think they already know everything, then they might as well quit, because somebody's going to pass them. So you're always working on. As I always told people, when you want to change a business, usually you change it when you're doing well, not when it's going bad. And so, USC coming off of the Trojans coming off a 9-4 season, it was all about, they did well, but how do you fix that, and how do you move that extra 30% that we need to move up the plane to do the things we need to do? And we lost. We have a lot of good guys back, but we lost some guys, especially like in the secondary here. So do it, and then you have really probably 3 probable starters that aren't going through spring, that are older players, and so you just have to forget about them for a little bit, and how we're going to grow up the rest of the group for a depth and do all the things we need to do, and then go forward and find out, what people understand, find out what we are. I think we have a really good chance being up front. We have a lot of depth. We're very big. Linebackers can really run, and then like Friday, I put an extra guy in the box, so how you play the run, so they felt better about themselves. And then Saturday, I didn't put an extra guy in the box, and they didn't feel as great about themselves. So I'm finding how you have to be able to play, how do you become a blitz team. I mean, everything is, it's not one of those things where you go out to practice and we're going to see how it goes. There's got to be an emphasis of what we're trying to get accomplished. And every day, maybe something didn't turn out really good, but you worked on something else that you got better at. Because really the ultimate thing is to be the best team we can be when we play the first game of the season come the end of August. And everybody understands what their role is, what they're doing. We've got to get to where we trust everybody and they're doing their 111th. I think that's the thing that you get into with defenses. All good defenses I know, like I tell them all the time, when fast goes away, stay all day. It's like you see a young team and the ball goes over there and everybody starts running that way. No, ball goes over there. There's those guys that have their responsibilities for that. Your job is stay right here so they don't come back.
Yeah.
And so learning those kind of situations. One of the unique things about this was they did some good things here defensively. And how you then more of a true zone concept comparably to how we match quarters and doing the things we do. And marrying that up, I learned how to do a little bit of that, how we did it. We did it at Texas. And so we kept it. Well, they knew it better. So they do a lot of that. They understand it. So you're able to have people that'll see a TCU or a Gary Patterson type defense now at USC will find out the first thing they'll look at and go, well, that's not what some of the things, that's not what I used to see him doing. And I think it's going to make us a lot better. Back then you played people for X amount of years. Everybody knew our signals. Everybody knew what was going on, blah, blah, blah. Now you talk through a mic, you don't see the signals as much. And so people aren't going to say, well, we know what they're doing now because we'll know because we can see the signal.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore either. So I'm excited about it. If you can't tell, it's
Yeah.
It's been people. I guess I've been kind of shocked a little bit. It's like I'm probably a 66-year-old guy going on 35. Where I got a lot of friends that are 30, 40 years old and they act like they're 90. It's like you're not old yet. You need to understand what we're doing. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, adapting to the new style of college defenses, I'm sure, is something that keeps you going. Coach, we had Lincoln Riley on last week, and we asked him, and it sounds like he's been after you for a while, trying to get you going, and maybe at the defensive coordinator position here. What finally was the right time for you to come to USC and be the defensive coordinator?
Well, for me, it's after 40-some years of doing it, I just kind of wanted a break. Mm-hmm. Especially after going down to Texas, and I was there 9 months. I could tell, really, I needed to get back. It's some point in time, I have 3 sons and I have 4 grandsons. You've got to kind of turn your time because basically as a coach, you spend a lot more time raising other people's kids than you do your own.
Yep.
And so I really wanted to get back. I wanted to get back to our foundation for a couple years, Leon Bridges, which is my partner, and really get that going stronger than what it was so I could be a part of it. And it has, and so got all that stuff done. Then, a lot of the Hall of Fame things, you got to where you were eligible for all that stuff, and so that's come to pass this year. And so I felt like it was one of those things where I didn't want to be doing this when I was 70-something. I wanted to get back into it.
Yeah.
I wanted somebody else to deal with the NIL and the not that I couldn't. You know what? That was kind of the interesting thing. I'd really been interested what TC would have been like if I could have paid guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Whole different
Because I had a chancellor that walked in and said, even by the spirit of the rule, if you say you're going to do that, then you're fired.
Yeah.
So, we had to do it a lot differently, which meant you had to evaluate, you had to grow them up, you had to develop. And I still think, to be honest with you, that's a big part of the game of finding guys. You have your top guys that everybody knows you're going to pay the big money for that are really good players. And then how do you find those other guys that are going to be and someday may end up being big money guys because they're going to develop into that kind of – that's really when you have the true game you have, that you don't have to go find a guy in the portal that's a big guy. You already developed one inside your deal that already was maybe a 6'5", 220-pound dude that now is 6'5", and he's 265 pounds. And now he's a monster, and he already knows your system. You brought him up, you taught him, and so I think somewhere in between is all that. So it's I think that's the question of how do you do it within each university that you do that gives you an opportunity. One of the advantages USC has is you have just in LA alone, you have so many players that you can pick from that you get ready to go that you don't really have to go. It was the same thing when I was at TCU, that you were sitting there you're in a Metroplex and you just had so many players that you had to evaluate. Sometimes it's a negative because you sometimes get slower because you got to be careful about taking someone that's close to you that maybe doesn't fit how they act outside of football or anything to go on. And so you don't want that kind of message inside your locker room. And so for me, sometimes it was a little bit of a knock because we wouldn't be as fast on some players that we offered and did things. So, but as a general rule, the game's the game. What I figured out, the kids are still the ones that really want to be good. They still work hard. They still play hard. They still do the things, and they still want to know. As I tell people, great ones want to be told, good ones want to be coached, and bad ones, it doesn't matter one way or the other. And so, getting around the guys that really want to know, and they definitely want you to just put them down a line to tell them, here's how you get where you need to get to. And those are the guys that are fun to be around.
Yep.
Something interesting we've seen in the first week of camp is for the defensive players, a stripe down the helmet. And Coach Riley made it sound like it was something you brought to the table. What does that do for just tackling and whatnot?
Well, it's more of it's an eyes thing. We really, and we still got to keep getting better at it. It's all about where you snap your head. Something happens in the secondary. Let's just say the number 2 receiver runs an out, of seeing you snap your eyes to the outside, make a call, telling the corner that he's going to come off. I'm going to go look up the outside receiver. When you play single high defense, you don't have to talk as much. And if you play just vision quarters, could you just stay in an area? When you match up routes and do things, then you have to talk to each other. And what they find out is that, when everybody's on the same page and everybody's communicating, less people make mistakes. When you're living on an island, then you don't have anybody that helps you, and then you have a problem with some of those kind of things. So we get a chance on film then to see that helmet turn. And then also you get where they've been told that you're going to see them pointing, because they're also going to point when they talk. So that way on film, we don't have audio. So then when they say, well, I said it, well, I didn't see the hand signal. So
fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
So that's what it does. When it gets to a point where we think they're turning their heads the way they need to and snapping their eyes and doing things, then we'll take the stripe off. When I initially went to the equipment guy, he goes, we don't put those things on these helmets. So, and I was okay with it. We didn't, but all of a sudden they came out and they're on the helmet. So I was just glad he was okay with it. So,
Coach,
hey,
you had to put. Oh, excuse. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, to put together a staff pretty quick there. What was it like? You have some familiar faces for you, and then you combine some guys that were here already. What was it like putting that staff together?
That's, it's interesting because you have to get everybody on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And really that took us started about 2.5 weeks of the 6 that I've been here. And so you kind of had to start in that way of doing it.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to go, having been a head coach for so long, I understood about chemistry and all those kind of things of making people feel like what they'd already done was worth something.
Yeah.
So I had to work through X amount of time of finding out. So it was kind of good because Coach had given them time off, because that's the down period when you can't have recruits on campus. And so when everybody else left, I didn't. So there was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that I went through like 500 and some snaps of football, watching their stuff. And then I got the board, and so I got to where I understood it without anybody around, put it on the board, and then I started putting our stuff on the board as an installation, kind of moving things forward. Because really what you wanted to do is you didn't want to do the same thing. If there was something they did before here at USC that was good,
Uh-huh.
and then so we kept that stuff. If there were things that were the same, then sometimes we might go either or, and then other things that we did that gave them an opportunity to be more successful, anything we added. So, usually we've been working on a lot more of what things they haven't done as much as the stuff they've already done before. So it's been fun for me, because it also has kept me on my toes of every day's a new day of learning something and how they do it and really finding out what they think.
Yeah, sounds like we got some exciting defensive hybrid Gary Patterson defenses coming up here, Keely. Exciting stuff to see.
Exciting. Well, Coach, we know you're a busy man, so thank you so much for taking the time.